Hey, greetings, Navandine here with ITS Partners. In this brief presentation, we'll be focusing on Symantec DLP and exact data matching. So, a couple of things before we get started. We know that Symantec DLP contains many canned or out-of-the-box policies to address many different types of sensitive data. So, that being said, what about internal proprietary data that is specific to a company or organization? How can the system best address that challenge? One solution is to implement EDM, or exact data matching. EDM is a very powerful policy that accurately detects sensitive data that is unique, whether if it is protecting patient information from an export from your EMR system, HR data from a database, or even financial records. EDM can be designed and implemented in your DLP program to address this concern. In this particular use case or brief demonstration of this technology, we're going to try and detect some sensitive data. So for instance, a person last name and a social security number are the criteria that will be matched on. In addition, since this data is unique, false positives are low to none, and the exposure of this data can be categorized as severe for prevention. So let's demystify this process by starting with the EDM inner workings then. So we have this technology in Symantec DLP. What's the approach and how can we leverage it? So first off, we need some data to create a policy. Um, Typically, the experience that I've gone through is that we get this data from either a database team or a team that supports some type of application. For instance, maybe an EMR system, a database that contains some records, or maybe some diagrams or source code. Um, so that export usually comes from um, a database side in a tabular text file. So it's going to be a flat file with some rows and columns. It could be text or CSV. So let me log in here to DLP console. And we'll start taking a look at the system here. I'm running a single tier in Force 12.5 with multiple detection technologies. Here is the manage card, and this is where we're going to start the process. So first things first, we have to get the data source, and when we get that data source, there's some requirements here. So we have to prepare that data source for efficient EDM indexing. So that means we have to verify that it's delimited using commas, tabs, or pipes. Verify that the data values are not enclosed in quotes. Eliminate duplicate records. So we have to do some type of massaging on that data. So I already have my data and I've massaged it as best as I can here. I have some fake socials, um, some account IDs, some made up last names and first names, as well as account numbers and driver's license. So in this policy, what I'm going to be creating would only detect social security numbers and last name. So let me get started here. We'll go to the manage card and select exact data, and we'll click on the exact data profile. So there are several ways to get this data into the Symantec DLP Enforce system. One, we can reference it on the Data Enforce Manager host, and another is just upload the data source to the server now, and that's by browsing to the path where that file is located. So if we want to do a browse, we can simply browse to that data, and I believe I have it here in my EDM folder, and we would just open that. Um, and the other use case here, or another way to upload this data source, is to reference the data source on the manager host. So if you have a large data source file, you can simply just copy it over to the data files folder, or it can be sent via secure FTP. And if the data source is smaller than 50 megs, you can click browse and browse to that file. In addition, the last way is to leverage the remote EDM indexer utility, and we'll get into another part of this presentation on using the EDM indexer utility. But for now, we'll just reference the data source on the manager host. So I'll minimize the screen here. Here I have my EDM file, or my export from my database team. I will copy that over to the data files folder. So I'll paste that file in here. Minimize this. Cancel that. And here is my source file. I'll give it a name, EDM1. I'll also read the first row as column names, and the delimiter or separator character is tab. I'll go ahead and hit next, and it will pull all of those fields in for me. And then I'll hit submit index and job on save. Click finish. As you can see, it's creating a index version. My job is completed, and just to make note here, there was a error threshold of 5%, so if it goes over 5%, the indexing will stop and fail, and you would have to go back in to that export and try and clean it up as best as you can. I had some customers that script this to remove any empty cells and replace it with some stub data or fake data just for the indexing to complete. So you can be creative on this index and how efficient you want to be with cleaning it up. So we'll cancel this. Now, next step here is to create a policy off of this EDM profile. So we'll go to the magic card, click policy. I'm gonna add a policy. Here I have the HIPAA healthcare solution pack actually imported in. I have those policies disabled right now, so I'm gonna click add a blank policy. Gonna name it EDM1. I'm gonna select a policy group, add rule, and I'm gonna click the radio button for content that matches exact data from EDM1. I only have one EDM profile. Gonna hit next here. Be consistent with my naming convention. So here are some conditions. So we're gonna look for two fields. So we're gonna select two, and that would be SSN and last. Gonna keep it basic and not get too creative here for this demonstration. And I will click OK here. And here is my rule with the EDM profile. Also, something to keep in mind is that when we use EDM, we would recommend using a AND rule with a data identifier. Reason being, two-tier detection is a little bit more efficient than just a EDM rule. So we would leverage a data identifier. Say for instance it was an account number, a unique account number, and a last name. We would create a regular expression pattern or a data identifier to match whatever digits or combination of digits and letter in that regular expression. So what's going to happen is that once this gets loaded into memory on the detection server, it would look at the lowest cost rule first and then move on to the EDM profile. So it doesn't scan the EDM profile right away unless it detects something in that pattern or regular expression that was created. So it's a little bit more efficient to do a regular expression ANDed with a EDM profile or EDM policy. I'm going to save this here, and I'm going to try and generate an incident right now off of this EDM policy. So we have this information here. I'm going to just select I'm going to select 3 rows, do a copy here, and on my enforce server I have this network interface checked off for network monitor. Going to use a test site to do a HTTP post. Paste that data in there and hit post. Navigate back to my enforce console and see that there's a message that shows up in the last 10 seconds, and then there should be one in the queue. I'll navigate to my network incident card here. And we can see that that's the site here, dlptest.com, and the policy. And this is a good way to eliminate false positives, right? So we have last name and social security number, EDM policy hit, HTTP post. So this looks pretty good. Got my server as a single tier. So in production, this would actually be, you know, the name of your network monitor server. That was the detection technology that detected this incident. So this is one way to leverage EDM for indexing, sensitive data that's extrapolated from your proprietary system. So the other way is, or another method to do indexing is leveraging the remote EDM indexer utility. So this can be a little bit more time consuming, I would say, due to all the steps that need to be taken. And also the indexer is installed on another or a separate server and not on the Enforce, so there's a little bit of back and forth with the indexer server and the Enforce. However, it still can be automated by creating some scripts and some batch files um, to mitigate the overhead and administration effort. So the remote EDM indexer is installed on all detection servers. So it should be here in my Symantec DLP protect bin folder. Okay, so we have the indexer here. What I'm going to do now is going to delete this incident. Delete my policy. And also delete my profile here. So some of the requirements for leveraging the indexer is we would have to create a profile. We'll also have to have our export, and we'll need to copy the index that's created from running the command over to the enforce folder, and it's not actually in the data files folder. We'll have to copy it to another folder in the Symantec DLP protect, and that would be not data files but now index. So we'll need to copy the hash that's created from running the remote EDM indexer command. So a couple advantages of doing this on a separate machine is that it enables the owner of the data, instead of the Symantec DLP administrator, to index the data. So sometimes it could be, highly sensitive data, and you don't want the admin knowing what's being indexed. So this is where this can benefit. In addition to that, it also takes the load off of the Enforce, due to the fact that CPU and RAM utilization on the Enforce can get pretty high for a long period of time running this index. So if you're looking at a 600 meg file with 10 million rows, it's recommended to have it run on an index server or a separate server than the Enforce. And this is due to high CPU and RAM utilization when doing the indexing. So let's go ahead and do the remote EDM indexing. So first thing, we'll create our profile again. However, the profile is going to be a little bit, the process is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to click on Add Exact Data Profile here. Call this EDM1. I'm going to click the radio button to use this file name. Keep it consistent. EDM1. I believe it's 6 columns we have here. Yep. And it's tab. I'm going to click next. See some data source field here, so I'm going to try and match it up as best as I can. And if there's not a system field in there, you can click the advanced view, and we can select custom. So for the first field, I know that it's a social security number. Click back to simple. And, second field is an account ID. I'll just call it ID card number. Third is a first name. We have the last name here, account number, and driver's license number. And that's it here. I'm just going to click on finish. Here I have my profile. Next step is to download a profile. I'm going to save that. Here I have it. I'm going to cut this out of here and just place it to my EDM folder. So here I have my export and my profile. So let's go ahead and run that command here. Switch directories. So I cheated a little bit here and have my text file with the command. Let's make sure we got this. Okay, so I will run this here. My data. Try this again. Okay, so here's my remote EDM indexer command. I have my data, which is located in CEDM, EDM1 CSV, my profile that I downloaded from Enforce, and the result or the output of the data in the profile would be saved in the EDM folder, and it usually contains a RDX and a PDX file that we'll need to copy over to the index folder in the Symantec DLP Enforce console. I've been having issues with my test environment, so I had to do an ignore date on the profile. Here we have a verbose to show some details and output of running the command. Let's see if I can hit enter, and here we have some rows. Got one invalid row here. Seems like I have one invalid cell. index is created successfully. So let's go back to that folder and see what's going on here. So here are my two files that I need to copy over to the enforce. So I'll go ahead and move that to the protect index folder. Now I'll go back into my EDM profile. I'm going to select load externally generated index and submit indexing job on save, and click save here. Here we have index version 1 completed, deploying to monitors. I'm gonna hit refresh here, and all is well. So similar to just doing the upload from the DLP data files folder, here we did the loading of the externally generating index from the index folder. So now we're going to create the same policy again. So back to the manage card policy, add a blank policy. I'll call this CDM1. Select a policy group. I'm gonna add rule. Here is my EDM profile here. Got my data rows as 2, SSN last name. And we can do a lot of customization here with severity based on match count to trigger different types of response rules. Also for prevention on the email side and website. So, you know, if it detects something like 2 or 3, we're going to block or on email and web. Not a lot of false positive here, guys. So here we go. So I'm going to save this. Save again, and let's go ahead and test this out. Once again, I'm going to do a HTTP post, and let me select a different set of data here. Copy this, test. So here we have some data. Head back to my console. Do a refresh here. I got 1 in the incident queue, so that looks like a good sign. Got 2 in the last 10 seconds. So let's go over to our incident network. And we got 4 matches, and I did select 4 rows from my spreadsheet here. And I will click on the incident, and I think we have some success here. Yeah. So this looks pretty good. I know both ways will work. Once again, there's different requirements for leveraging EDM, If it is a small 50, less than 50 meg, you can browse. If it's large, you would have to copy it over to the data files folder. And if it's very large, it will require, I wouldn't require, but I would recommend leveraging the separate index server and not use your production Infor server to doing these types of tasks. So I hope this helps, and I'll look forward for your feedback, and obviously reach out to ITS and let us know how we can help you out. Thanks for your time, and thanks for watching this presentation.